All right, welcome back. So we're working our way up the chakras. Today we're on the throat chakra, or the Vishuddha Chakra. So this region of the body, this is associated with the neck, throat, and the shoulders. The color of light for this chakra is blue. And we're gonna work on some postures today that will help to open up your shoulders, help to release neck tension. And we're gonna work on some flexion and some extension for the neck to help to stimulate that area. So things to think about with the throat chakra is that when we're activating the throat chakra through our yoga practice, we're learning our authentic voice and we're learning our truth. And when the throat chakra is in balance, we're speaking truth. And it goes so far to say in some of the yoga texts, like in the Yoga Sutras, that through practice, a yogi will actually gain the ability to speak things into existence or to prophesize things because they're always telling the truth, so that things that they say will automatically become true, which is pretty far out. If you gain this gift from today's practice, make sure to let me know. Tell me how you did it. All right, well, let's begin. We'll start off today with a little seated meditation. So close your eyes and come into your base and your roots and aim the sit bone straight down so that it feels like the tailbone isn't tucked at all. Allow the pelvic floor to open. Find space for your belly, the solar plexus, and let the heart open. But remember from yesterday's class that when we go to open the heart, that chakra, think of more from the spine. Instead of projecting your heart forward, let the spine be tall and release tension around all four sides of the spine, the back, the sides, and the front. Not just pushing forward. Similarly, find space, and the instruction I often give for this is to spread across the collarbones. Instead of lifting, spread across the collarbones and feel space from the tops of the blades into the shoulders. And then allow the spine, right where the throat is, to be tall up to the crown. Then visualize like you could take in blue light through the crown towards the throat to help to heal, transform, and create balance. As you breathe, visualize the color blue in the throat. Then gently open your eyes. All right, so let's do some of these arm variations that are gonna help for the neck and the shoulders. First, we're gonna start with a pumping motion for the arms. So as you exhale, stretch your arms all the way forward, but let your inner arm bones drop back so your collarbones are widening. And then rebend. And then angle the arms up slightly and stretch them forward again. And rebend. We're gonna work our way all the way upright, a few degrees at a time. Angle a little more upright and make sure that you keep the space across the collarbones. If the arms don't get all the way straight, no worries. Rebend, angle up a little bit higher, and make sure that you're not pushing forward with your ribs or your heart. And rebend. Again, angle up a little bit higher. Nice, and then bring the knuckles towards your forehead. And re-extend. Last one, bring the knuckles up onto the top of your head. Feel the collarbones broaden. Feel the spine get long again, and then slowly start to reach the arms up and hold. Good. And then look for the space across the collarbones and free up the back of the neck through the reach of the arms. So much of arm stretching, I find, when people aren't paying attention to how the arm should move in the socket, creates more neck tension than it should release. Then rebend your elbows and change the interlock of the hands. We'll start pumping from the heart. We'll work our way up to the crown. So another index finger on top. So start to just pump your arms back and forth. And each time you re-extend, angle up a little bit higher. Now as they keep going and as the arms are pumping, as the arms go forward, you might notice a tendency for your chest to lean back. Instead, keep your ribs balanced right over your hips. Good, then the next one towards your forehead. Re-extend. And then up onto the top of your head. And re-extend and hold. Good. Feel your pelvis again, feel your roots. Allow the spine to grow tall without straining around any of the energy centers we've identified so far. Especially make sure that the throat feels open. Then rebend your elbows and bring your arms back down. Good. Change the cross of your legs and twist to your right. Then twist to your left. Come back to center. And then sit flat on the floor. And with your legs crossed, put your fingertips in front of you. All right, reach through the sit bones down into the mat, and then start to lift up through the sides of your chest. And then as you exhale, walk your hands, whatever shin you have in front, I want you to walk your hands towards the opposite shin. Or knee, I mean. And then start to walk your hands further forward. Let your belly release back towards your spine so that the lower back can open. In a forward fold, sometimes the lower back gets crunched. Those muscles pinch up and crush the back of that chakra. So instead, visualize like an orb around that part of your spine, and you can breathe space into all four sides. Then walk your hands back into the middle and upright yourself again. Change the cross of your legs. Put your hands in front of you. Hold there. Let the sit bones drop down. Walk your hands over to the opposite knee, whatever shin you have in front, towards the other knee. Hold there. Open up through the center of the spine. That's the best way to go. And then as you exhale, maybe you can go just a little bit deeper without forcing. Good, then walk your hands back to the middle and come upright. Cool. Come into child's pose with the arms extended. Okay, then really great way to activate all the chakras. And sometimes, is this one referred to as chakrasana? I think in, maybe in Vini Yoga or something. I don't know. There's other chakrasanas too, where you like flip over, that's what you call it in Iyengar Yoga, when you do the flip from plow into, you don't even know this right now. Come up onto your hands and your knees. And anyways, we're gonna do cat-cow. As you exhale, round your back. And specifically, bring your focus to the tops of the blades and the back of the neck, and let them open up. Then as you inhale, start to wheel your chest forward, tip the sit bones up, reach the heart forward, but then feel the front of the neck open up and the front of the shoulders. Then as you exhale, start to round. Look back towards your navel, let the space in between the blades open, back of the neck open, and then inhale, arch through. Do that one more time. Exhale to round your spine. Inhale to arch through. Good, then come into a neutral spine. Hold there. Okay, now, as you press into your hands, make sure there's space here. So very common, I see that people aren't activating their back muscles and they're sinking into their blades. So this is gonna create pressure in the shoulder heads. So we want to be able to keep this space right here where my hand is. Imagine I had my hand on your back there. You got it already, Stacy, it's good. And then one leg at a time, step back into plank pose. Make sure that you don't sink into this area. So Stacy naturally does a really good job of holding this. Okay, then the next thing is that the shoulder head will want to, I'll show it on my body, it wants to sink like this into your neck. So instead, I want you to grab a little bit right here with these muscles at the back of the armpit, grab down towards your hips a little, but without sinking into the spot where the imaginary hand was. I wish I could come do it for you. Okay, all this should help to create more space, not just in the chest, but also in the upper back. And it should feel like the blades set on the back better when you do that. Have you been holding plank long enough? I feel like this is the longest plank ever. Okay, now if you're very strong at this, as you press down through your middle 3 knuckles and lift out of your wrists, make sure your elbows aren't locked, maybe lift your right leg an inch. But if you feel that you lose the grab on either armpit or sink in between the blades, better just to keep both feet down. Change legs now. Keep that space, don't sink. Good. Oh, but keep the grab in the armpits, but don't sink there. Good job. Set the foot down, set the knees down, and just stretch back into child's. Okay, so we're just refining some of the poses that we always do to make sure that we're opening up that area instead of creating more tension for it. Downward facing dog, stretch back. And so you can do this not just with restorative yoga, but with active yoga if you're doing the pose as well. So also here in this pose, no longer are we squeezing the armpit because the arm is fully stretched. So actually you're letting that area spread where you're just squeezing. So from your outer shoulder blade through your fingers, let the reach come, but also keep the space in between your blades. Very common, I see people jamming their chest towards their feet, and that's creating a lot of strain on that chakra. Not to mention what it's doing to your organs. Okay, then walk your hands all the way back to your feet and fold forward at the back of the mat. So if there's good opening from the lower chakras, it should feel like there's like a water flow of energy through the spine all the way through your crown. If you don't have good flow from the lower chakras yet, then standing poses, work on the standing poses daily to help to create better energy flow and more mobility and elasticity in the spine. And then once you get the standing poses down, then start adding in the seated poses daily. And that will help to free up from above. Then eventually the back bends. Oh my gosh, it's all gonna come. Don't worry yourself. We'll get there. Hands onto your hips. Come up to stand. Walk up to the top of your mat. Look down at your feet. Set up your foundation. All 10 toes point straight ahead. Center of your heels point straight back. All 4 corners of the knees point straight ahead and grow tall up over your ankles. Okay, now take this arm bone and let it lift up into the socket a little and then fall back. But as you do that, make sure that your waist didn't tip forward at all. The waist, all 4 sides of the waist stay tall. We talked about that already, right? Okay, good. And then the head balances right up on top. Our head spends most of its time forward, driving, looking at the cell phone. So there's a lot of strain on the heart, and then especially on that throat chakra, it spends all of its time like this. So allow yourself to be upright through the head and just feel how, we talked about this idea of finding your inner truth, your inner voice. When you're more upright like this, you feel that internal power more, maybe, that you'll speak from a different place. Versus if I'm like this, I'm gonna talk to people a lot differently. Okay, raise your arms up overhead. And just like we practiced when we were doing the pumping arm motion, keep the space across your collarbones. Exhale, fold forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, make a flat back, elongate your spine. And step back 1 leg at a time into plank pose. Good, work on the action that we found. Space between the blades, little grab in the back of the armpit. And that's gonna stabilize the arm bone in the socket. Good. Now without rounding your back, bring your right knee up to your chest without rounding at all. Keep the grab in the armpit. Change legs, pull the left knee up. Stretch that leg back, and then slowly glide back into down dog, up, but without just dumping into your neck, chest. Keep the chest open, keep the space across the back of the neck. Same broad collarbones we were looking for in the pumping motion. Good, then walk your feet forward to the front of the mat. Inhale, make a flat back, lengthen out your spine. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, come all the way up, raise your arms up. Exhale, bring the hands to your heart, Samasthiti. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, flat back, elongate. Step your left leg back into a lunge now. Come up onto your fingertips. And then start to reach forward through your chest. So as you reach the chest, also keep spreading the tops of the blades. Start to lengthen through the tail towards your back heel. Now float your arms back behind you. Hold there. So turn on your core muscles, which means elongate your spine. Then set your left hand down and twist. Take your right arm up. Okay, so real common what I see in twisting is that people aren't connected with their head to the rest of their spine. So this creates like a disconnect and almost a dishonesty in the movement. So to make the movement more honest and integrated with the whole spine, all the chakras, turn your head the same way as your chest. So like almost like your nose is pointing with the sternum. Not that you have to look down, but I mean like in that same line. Okay, now to turn, start from your heart. So start to spin the ribs more, and then let the nose follow more the turn of the chest. Now, if the neck feels free in the movement, the muscles on your neck feel healthy, you might be able to turn the head a little bit more, but make sure that you're not creating more neck tension. Most commonly, I see people just jamming and whipping their head around in the poses, and they're just like cranking on that, and they're not finding any opening there. Bring your right hand back down and step back into plank pose. Hold in plank with your chest open. Bring the left knee up without rounding. Change legs, bring the right knee up without rounding. Stretch that leg back, glide back to downward facing dog. Walk your feet forward to the front of your mat. Inhale, make a flat back, lengthen. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, come all the way up, raise your arms up. Exhale, bring the hands to your heart, Samasthiti. Inhale, reach the arms. Exhale, bow forward. Inhale, flat back. Step your right leg back into a lunge. Come up onto your fingertips and start to lengthen. Then float your arms back behind you. Feel all four sides of the waist get long. The spread across the collarbones will help to open the chest, but then visualize where the spine is from the heart chakra. Keep that area especially lengthened. It's hard to access that length there. And that will feed length into the neck. Good, then set your right hand down. And now on this side, put your left hand on your hip for just a moment, and then find the length again first, tail straight back, crown forward, pelvic floor to the back ankle. Then start to spin from the ribs and let the chest teach the head where to go. So keep turning the chest, turning the chest, turning the chest. Just turn towards you, turning the chest, and then see if the nose could turn a little bit more, but the turn should help to release neck tension. If you feel like, oh, I'm really gripping up my neck to make this turn in my head, don't do that. Take your left arm up. I got a little sassy for a second. Bring your left hand back down and step back into plank pose. Hold there with your heart open, but also without sinking into your blades. Bring your right knee up without sinking, rounding, or twisting. Change legs, left knee up. Keep that length through your tail. Stretch that leg back. Now lie down onto your belly and let's wake up the back muscles. That will help to keep the chest open. That will help with the health of the neck. Stretch your arms back. And then lift the shoulders, head, chest up. So again, I talked about this yesterday, how to protect an open chest. The movement video, series 2, episode 4. That's a great one. It's the upper body where we train with the band, which helps to activate all these back muscles that you use in all the belly back bends. They are turned off all the time in most people. Even myself, when I've been practicing yoga for 4 years, I still didn't know how to work my back muscles. So it's a great video to practice to learn. So turn on your back muscles to help to open up your chest, but not so much to where you're tensing here in your neck. Still flow the neck long. Flow through the tail long too. And then raise your right leg an inch without the hips twisting. Both sides of the belly draw up. Change legs, raise your left leg an inch without the hips twisting. Raise both legs 1 inch. Now the lower back will want to crunch to do that. The neck mirrors the lower back. So just feel what happened in your neck and your lower back. Can you create space again? Good. Now press the feet down and keeping the fingers pointing back, slide your hands underneath your elbows. Elbows stretch straight back, but collarbones stay broad. Last part, turn the hands around so the index fingers point towards the front. And now, without your shoulders sinking in front of your chest, start to roll up into up dog. But pay attention to the side of your chest. Don't let your shoulders sneak in front of your chest. The side chest should still be visible. Now roll the chest through the arms to come up higher. Yes, and then if you want to start to look up, it should come from the chest. And it should feel like the front of the neck is freed up into the movement. Good, downward facing dog. Instead of just hinging and Pez dispensaring your neck. That's just going to create, it's no good for the anatomy first off, but energetically, we're not training that area to open up evenly. Step your right foot for crescent lunge. Inhale your arms up. Then bring your right hand onto your hip and lift from the front of your pelvis past your left pinky. Set your left knee down onto the floor. Hook your left elbow onto your right knee. And then lift from the front of the pelvis up towards your chest again. Join your palms together. Bring the hands back down to the mat. Step back. Plank pose, chest open. Lower down onto your belly. Point your toes back, inhale into cobra. Now set up the shoulders in position. Start to roll through into up dog, but don't let those shoulders come in front. Otherwise you're putting all that pressure on your heart. You're creating more neck tension for yourself. It's bad news. Downward facing dog, glide back. I'd rather see you work in some variation from cobra, like half in between up dog and cobra, than pushing with your arms and rounding your shoulders. You can look in the mirror to make sure you're not doing it. Step your left foot for crescent. Inhale, come up, or just DM me a picture. I'm happy to look at your picture. I'll give you critiques on the, what's that thing called? The Instagram. Okay, could Instagram me. Then bring your hands to your heart and slowly lower your back knee towards the floor. Oh, I'm sorry, it was hand on the hip. Left hand on the hip, right arm stays up. Grow tall through the front of the pelvis to the reach of the pinky. Then hook your elbow onto your knee. But then find the lift through the front of your pelvis again. And join your palms together. And as you press your index finger knuckles, remember the collarbones. Spread the collarbones. And just feel what that does for your neck and your shoulders. Oh yeah, it drops the shoulders back into position so that the back of the neck isn't crunched. Bring your hands back down. Step back into plank pose. Good. Spread the collarbones without sinking here into your blades. And now let's practice the dreaded chaturanga push-up. Shift forward and lower slowly, keeping the space across the collarbones. Don't let your hips go faster. Now lift the whole body up. Good. Hold there. 20 more. No, I'm kidding. Downward facing dog, stretch back. Walk your feet forward to the front. Inhale, make a flat back. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, sit back into chair pose, bend the knees, sit deep and raise your arms. Exhale, stand and release your arms down at your side. Inhale into chair pose, bend your knees, sit back. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, make a flat back. Step back to plank pose, one leg at a time. Lower down onto your belly. Point your toes back, inhale into cobra. And then roll through into up dog without the shoulders sneaking in front of the chest. Nice. Downward dog, glide back. Step your right foot for warrior two. Inhale, come up. Extended side angle. Place your hand down onto the outside of your foot, block or floor. So we've been practicing for the last few days. You should feel that the body feels like it's willing to go a little deeper into the poses the more regularly you practice. But if that feels too low to have the hand down that low, you can always go forearm to thigh still. Remember, what we're doing here is creating health and opening instead of jamming ourselves into positions to try to go deeper and straining while we do it. That's no good for your body. Come back up to warrior two. Inhale. Good. Then let's do modified side angle. Put your right hand down on the inside of your foot and take your left arm up. Okay, so we're going to work on the bind. First, internally rotate your left arm, which will roll the shoulder inward a little. That's okay. Then bend the elbow and slide the hand behind your back. Okay, so once you have that arm behind your back, do an external action again with the shoulder, which means to broaden across the collarbone so that the shoulder head rolls back into its natural position. Then, elongate your spine, drive and reach through your back heel. So this is a really nice stretch for the front of your shoulder. It will help to open up the tension, especially if the shoulder spends all of its time there. As you roll that shoulder back into position and feel the neck vertebra get space in between them, it's going to help to release that shoulder tension. Take your left arm back up. Inhale, come back up into warrior two. Then reverse warrior, flip your palm, inhale. And then bring your hands back to the mat. Okay, from here you can choose your own adventure, step back to down dog or take a vinyasa. You could do chaturanga, up dog, down dog. Or you can lower down onto your belly and practice the shoulder action. The better you get at doing up dog with your shoulders back in that position, the better your chaturanga will get too. Warrior two, step your left foot. Inhale, come out. Good, hold, left knee pointing straight ahead. Then take extended side angle. Put your hand down on the outside of your foot. And take your right arm all the way over your ear. And so we're looking for a nice long line of energy from this wrist to your back ankle. Then press down through your feet, lift from your belly, come back up into warrior two. Modified side angle. Put your hand down onto the inside of your foot. Take your right arm up. Then internally rotate the arm, which will roll the shoulder inward a little. That's okay. Then bend the elbow and slide the hand behind your back. Okay, so once you have that arm behind your back, do an external action again with the shoulder, which means to broaden across the collarbone so that the shoulder head rolls back into its natural position. Then elongate your spine, drive and reach through your back heel. So this is a really nice stretch for the front of your shoulder. It will help to open up the tension, especially if the shoulder spends all of its time there. As you roll that shoulder back into position and feel the neck vertebra get space in between them, it's going to help to release that shoulder tension. Then turn your shoulder heads back and turn your right leg all the way out. Pick up your back foot and turn it in a little more than halfway. All right, so reach through the back foot and then start to tip forward halfway out over your leg. So to have the hands like this, we have to work on balance. It's a little more complex for your brain, but ultimately really good for your shoulders to teach them this. Then start to tip forward all the way out over your leg without your shoulder head sinking onto your chest. Still keep that external action going. Good. Press into your feet and come back up. Turn your feet to the other side. Change the clasp of the elbows. Roll the shoulder heads back. And then start to tip forward. Nice and slow. Pause. Make sure the shoulder heads aren't sinking onto the chest. Good. The navel in, lengthen all the way out over your leg. Reach down through your feet. Inhale, come back up. Turn your feet so they're parallel. And now let's clasp the hands. Prasarita C. Same rotation of the shoulders. Start to fold forward without the shoulder heads rolling in onto your chest. Keep that space. Open through the soles of the feet. Smooth the backs of the legs. Press down into your feet. Inhale, come back up. Step your feet together. Inhale, raise your arms up for the ceiling. Reach for the sky. Exhale, fold forward. Fold deeply, and then slide the hands next to the feet, and if possible, ground the hands right at the sides of the feet. Feel the back of the spine open. Feel the back of the neck open. Let the crown of the head release towards the floor. And then come back up. All right, cool. So next we're going to work on opening up the back of the neck in plow. But before we do that, really important, I don't usually let people do plow until they have a decent forward fold, until they could like fold forward and touch their feet. So if your Uttanasana is feeling pretty good, like you can straighten your legs and still fold forward, then you'll probably be ready for this next one. If your Uttanasana, you're struggling in it, I would just keep practicing that one until you try this next one. So you could feel right away, but we're gonna do it pretty modified, so it should be not very risky for your neck. Okay, so we're gonna take the mat over to the wall next. And we're gonna, before we do the halasana, we're gonna do bridge just to make sure, I'll get it, don't worry. Just to make sure that we are able to find the action that we need for this pose. Okay, so Stacy's gonna lie down. And then she lifts her hips up. And I'm just gonna put this block underneath her hips on the medium height. And she's gonna take her arms like robot arms to the side like this. Now, what was that little thing you did? Undo that so I could show them too. Okay, so the tendency is to kind of just like hang out in this part of your back. Now, instead of tucking your shoulders, I want you to keep the bottom ribs passive and then slowly start to reach the upper arm bone down into the floor, the shoulder head actually, but without pushing from the ribs. Now, if the shoulder heads are reaching down well, this little bone at the base of the neck should release away from the floor. And the one I'm talking about is like your C7 vertebra right here where I'm pointing. That shouldn't be grinding into the floor. So that's the action that we learn to do shoulder stand and plow pose. Once you're in the pose, to sink the upper arm bone, shoulder head, humeral head, so that that bone releases away from the floor. And we usually do these poses nowadays on blankets so that that bone doesn't grind into the floor. Okay, lift your buns back up. Move the block to the side. So I have 2 blankets here. These are yoga blankets. You might need 3, you might need 4, depending on your shoulder situation. But I'm gonna put the smooth edge of the blankets facing to the wall, and we're gonna do plow pose with the feet swinging up to the wall. So I put the blankets about 18 inches away from the wall, maybe a little more. Let's go 2 feet. 2 feet away from the wall. Okay, then the shoulders are gonna go so that they're about an inch away from the edge. The shoulder head goes an inch away from the edge, the head goes on the floor. Then, Stacey's gonna put her hands next to her hips, put your hands next to your hips, and then swing your legs up and over to the wall. All the way, there you go. Okay, then once you get there, let the shoulder head start to release towards the floor and see if that little space in your neck, you can lift off of it. You might have to walk the feet up a little bit higher, and you might even have to bend the knees a little. That's okay. If you feel like you're too close to the wall, like we are, that's usually a sign that you're too close to the wall. You just come back down and reset. Okay, now, grab a hold of the sides of your sticky mat and roll up onto the tops of your shoulders. Don't turn your head in this. You just have to listen to the words. Let those shoulder heads drop down. Good, and then slowly release yourself. Okay, so if that went well, you're gonna be able to do shoulder stand pretty soon, which is a really great pose. Okay, let's do fish pose next. So roll over to your side, press yourself up, and then sit with your legs stretched out in front of you, and then put your elbows behind you. Okay, so this is a modified version of fish. Old school fish we do on the crown of the head once you develop strength through Shirshasana, but I haven't even taught you guys any Shirshasana yet in this, so I'm not gonna assume that we're ready for that. But in this pose, you're pressing the elbows down and lifting from the heart chakra spine to help to open the front of the neck. Now you just let the head drop back and really exaggerate that opening through the front of the neck. Good, and then come back up. All right, lower yourself down. And then bend your knees. Open your arms out to the side. Bring your knees into your chest. And then let both knees fall all the way over towards your right armpit. Turn from your belly to bring the knees back to center, and then let the knees fall all the way over to your left armpit. Turn from your belly, bring the knees back to center. Hug both knees into your chest. And then stretch your legs out for corpse pose. Turn your palms up at your side, just let the feet fall open now. So go inward, go through the layers, all the things that we built up, and allow yourself to sit in your own inner truth. So that you'll feel more comfortable expressing who you are and what you stand for. But also be able to listen deeply to others, even if you don't agree with it, because you're connected to your own inner truth. And the more deeply we connect to this, the better we're able to express ourselves creatively, not just through speech. Then we'll go back to the idea of visualizing blue light. Let the light come in through the crown. And visualize the blue light creating balance for you. So whether it's that you've been holding back speech, or you've been prone to some outbursts, allow for balance now. Then slowly start to bring your awareness back to your breath. Gently bend the knees and roll over to your right side. Press yourself up to seated. Join your palms together. Thank you. Namaste. All right. So just make sure that when you're doing that shoulder stand preparation through Halasana, that you find the sweet spot for your feet, but also that it doesn't feel like you're crushing and sinking onto your neck, but you have this little space for the back of your neck while you're going into it. If you have any questions, just message me on social media through Instagram. Usually check that one most often, and I'll be happy to get back to you ASAP. I'm always checking that one. Facebook, I don't check so much, so don't message me on there. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.